to show you what they look like with the black light. And I think I also need to explain and make sure you understand neon and fluorescent. So of all of these products, they pretty much have two different technologies. They either have something phosphorescent that absorbs UV and then puts out a glow, or it's neon where it doesn't absorb it, it just reflects. I'm coloring in with Prismacolor Neon Yellow, PC 1035, Neon Yellow. Let's see here, I'll give it a fairly heavy coat here. All right, this is Elmer's Glow in the Dark, Sparkly. Oops. Now, I did start one coat because I know it takes a while to dry. This stuff is really thick, so like you almost are painting with like slime. I'm thinking one of these. This one even. He might look a little frumpy. Sorry, guy, you got the budget glue. You got the budget glue. You're gonna look a little frumpy, but hey, you got a mushroom, so we're good. That's so much easier to clean than a brush. Oh my goodness. Okay. And this little guy, I've done one layer. Now I have colored these with a little bit of shading with a Prismacolor because I didn't want to use anything that would start running and smearing. This is the Deco Art Crafters Acrylic Glow Paint. So this is phosphorescent acrylic paint. Say phosphorescent means that it absorbs sunlight and or UV light. So a lot of light bulbs are UV light bulbs. So I guess it may not work on an LED light, like if your desk lamp is LED, but you have a regular light bulb. I mean, if you remember from being a kid, you have something that's glow in the dark. You put it under the light for a few minutes to like charge it. I'm getting the Primo treatment here, bud. Bit by bit. Okay. So this is just a watercolor brush. Although make sure you rinse it out good because this is like acrylic paint. It can ruin brushes if you don't clean it out. And acrylic dries pretty quick, so. Alright, so, oops, missed a spot. So ghost number 1 here is Deco Art. Ghost number 2 is the glitter glow in the dark Elmer's. And this is the Prismacolor Neon Green. No, Neon Yellow? Neon Yellow. And I think he's looking kind of patchy, so. Okay. Oh, I hope I didn't just drip that in my coffee. All right, little ghosty. You look green even in daylight. Yellow green. You look yellow green even in daylight. You're not gonna hide. Nope. Yeah, this is not building up. We're just gonna do the best we can. These guys have funny little eyes. Kind of cute. I like their shapes, they're very cute. Okay. Okay. I think I have a ghost living inside my printer. It just randomly does that. A week ago it wouldn't print or recognize anything. Now I think it caught up with itself. Either that or it has some kind of old timers. You know, that's probably. Oh, there we go. That's flowing better. I didn't like going over the pencil. Oh no. I'm gonna have to mute you in my video. Maybe it's this little ghosty trying to tell me that he's happy with his new brightly colored sheet. Says he can be seen. Okay, that's essentially 2 coats. Of a marker highlighter, standard yellow green, run-of-the-mill, no-name brand highlighter. Oh, what else? That's fine. I'll cover that. Okay. Now, this last one, I have a invisible ink pen that I've been trying to find. So we'll see if I can still find that. Otherwise, we will substitute something else. I saw it when I moved my desk setup, so it might be downstairs. All right. Take a time out. I started zoomed out here so I could just show you the giant mess of my desk. Yeah, I think I need a bigger desk. I have multiple desks, but this is the one that I film at, so I wanted to be able to work while I was filming. So let me catch you up. All of this stuff is what I've been experimenting with. Most of this we've already done, but I think when I left you, I was gonna try this one missing one that I was waiting to arrive. And then I was also gonna try out the neon Prismacolors and the neon highlighters. So I did these two. We have the highlighter here and the neon Prismacolor here. And then I have other Prismacolors and neons highlighters. And I shouldn't say neon because the highlighters don't say neon. So some of them actually don't really work. Aren't really neon. The yellow green, this typical standard bright neon looking yellow highlighter does work with the black light, but I will say you're going to see here that the blue and orange don't really work so well. So I'm going to show you what they look like with the black light, and I think I also need to explain and make sure you understand neon and fluorescent. So of all of these products, they pretty much have 2 different technologies. They either have something phosphorescent that absorbs UV and then puts out a glow, or it's neon where it doesn't absorb it, it just reflects it. So 2 different processes. And then the other thing is, do you want it to look glowing just looking at it, or do you want it to look glowing only when you have a certain type of light shining on it, like the UV pen or the UV blacklight? So that's going to determine what you would want to use, first of all. So none of these are expensive. Highlighters we had around the house. I had some. These, I will say, I had the neon yellow and I had the neon orange, the neon pink. I think there's a neon green, but I'm not sure. I don't think there's a neon blue. So I tried the electric blue, which I like never use because I don't like the consistency of it. So I'm going to show you what worked and what didn't. It's really interesting. Things I expected to work didn't sometimes, and then things that I was thinking would work didn't. And then there's things that I'm like, oh wow, that actually glows, and I wasn't thinking it would glow. So let me start to show you what these look like. Okay, so I've got my list here, and I'm going to zoom you in a little bit. Let's see, am I getting the bottom of the page? I always run into not getting the bottom of the page. There we go. Okay. Alrighty, so I got my little Halloween decor for inspiration. And all these glow-in-the-dark things. So, okay. So first, painted on Crafters Glow Paint by Deco Art. And that one. And then Elmer's, which is this one. So I don't know, should I lay them near them? Would that help? And then we have neon pen, and then we have neon pencil. Wait, is that it? Yeah, that's neon pencil. And then we have, okay, this is the glue one. And we have glow in the dark LA by LA Colors neon nail polish. So because I wanted to do this special pen on this 5th ghost, I did the nail polish on the little snails. I'll take this off. That's for the snails. That's here, that's here, that's here, that's here. So this last one was the one that I was hinting at, and I was waiting for it to arrive. That's why the break in the video. This is a spy pen, like a kid's spy pen. So this is UV reactive, so you can't see it. It's invisible ink, so you can't see it on the paper. It doesn't change the color of anything, but when you look at it under black light, it glows. So I'm going to turn this light down and see if we could still capture it on film. You can see everything glowing. So these things that have to charge, like the snail, the ghosts that are with the paint and the glue, they actually charge up. So if I left them outside, that would probably work better. Maybe I'll try that at the end and show a shot of it. They don't stay charged long, but they do stay charged. No, those are, they say glow in the dark, but they have, they're phosphorescent. So you notice the neon things don't charge in the sun or in the UV light like these do, but they do reflect it. Like, look at that mushroom. That is the neon pink and neon yellow from Prismacolor. So you can actually do some shading there with that. This was flat color at the top, but I did some shading on the little stems here, on the gills here, and that looks really cool. I could see doing an entire picture with those. And then, so there's the highlighter. He glows really bright, but he also does look like he's glowing even without the light, which is cool. So when we're looking through the book or looking at the pages. And then this is the pencil, which with multiple trying to get it smooth, you still always had a texture. So I would choose between those depending on whether you wanted a texture or whether you wanted it really smooth, because everything had multiple coats. And now when you get down to the highlighter and Prismacolor here, so this is the neon orange Prismacolor that's really bright, and the dark that looks red, that is actually the orange highlighter. And then here we have pink highlighter, which actually works pretty good, and then pink Prismacolor. You can tell by the texture difference. And then over here we have blue highlighter, which does not work at all as a neon glowing thing, but I substituted in electric blue, and that actually kind of glows compared to the highlighter, which if you look at it, let's see, let me put on the light. So if you look at it here, it looks pretty bright, but it's so surprising what glows and what doesn't glow. So now I did a couple more experiments, so I'm actually pretty happy with these two. This one I painted on with a brush. This one was really thick and gummy, so I painted it on with one of these silicone brush things, because it's pretty much just glue. That cleaned up really easy. I really like that. But he looks really cute just on his own without any of the UV light or anything, because he has glitter in them too. So I'm going to move these aside. Oh, and I also, just for fun, I also tried both of these, because both the lime green and Chinese green both seem very vibrant to me, but I colored them up here and you probably didn't even notice them. Let's see, let me turn this off. Yeah, you don't even see. They look pink. Oh my gosh. They just reflect the purple. I must have taken a pencil to them. Oh, I bet I took this marker. Yeah, I took that marker to do little highlights on the leaves. Okay, so those don't look neon at all. But it is interesting to see. Look, they glow. They glow in the dark. All right, so let me turn on the light. All right, so let me show you what I did to experiment here. I mean, this was an experiment in itself. I went ahead and colored in the background nice and neutral so you could see everything very well while I was waiting for the spy pen to arrive. And I will say, I ordered them on Amazon. They're very cheap. You can find them expensive. Someone's trying to gouge you, I think, price gouge you. This is the second set that arrived because I thought it didn't go through and wasn't arriving. Walmart, they were not packaged well. One of them didn't work, but the Amazon ones look just like that. And I kept the one color that I knew nobody would want, and I gave the rest to my daughter for a birthday party thing. So not very big, but it's a very juicy marker, and it has the cap that has the UV light like in it, and it works pretty good. So I want to show you a couple of things. So second, so I colored the inside of the pumpkin that I wanted to glow with a Ohuhu yellow marker, a very light yellow, bright yellow, light yellow Ohuhu marker in there. And then I did this spy pen over it. And I will say it is such a juicy marker that it is very, you got to do it in layers like you do any water-based marker, because it does kind of start to tear up the paper. So you got to let each layer dry if you do more than one layer. It does help to do a second layer. After that, it doesn't really make much of a difference. I also did the dots with the glow. What did I do that with? I thought I did it with this, but they're looking like they have, those must be the pale yellow. Those are just the pale yellow. Okay, with the Ohuhu markers. So I want to show you, I went over half of the jack-o'-lantern's yellow with this, with the spy pen, and half I didn't. So make sure it's sharp. And I also went over the little knife and the spots on the mushroom so that they would stand out. So let me turn this off again. See if we can see it when I film it. So if you can see, half of it on the left looks much brighter. That's where I colored the spy pen over the yellow. So you can combine it with Ohuhu markers. So seeing the nose and the mouth where it's half and half, the part on the right is just Ohuhu marker, and left is the glowing spy pen. Same with the little knife. So you can see the difference, like where I colored on the little knife glows, and then his little tummy and stuff where I left it, the white of the paper is not as bright. And same thing with this here, yeah. I did color it on the mushroom. So you can definitely tell a difference there. So let me turn the light back on. So that is combining it with Ohuhu markers. Now where I did the outlining with an acrylic marker, it's totally opaque, does not show it. All right, so let's go. Where's number 3? Excuse me. So this one, I thought, well, let me test white Prismacolor versus white of the paper because white seems to reflect it. And you can even tell it's just regular light. The bird looks dark where I've colored white, and then just the white of the paper is brighter than coloring with white. So the white of the paper, think of like if you go to a party with black light. We always knew in the 80s, like if someone was going to have a black light, you didn't wear white because you could see through your clothing. We didn't want anyone to see our underwear through our clothing. So you knew not to wear white because it also glowed and would show through. So that's kind of doing the same thing here. Even colored white, you can see the line work from being colored. But like her little leg and her stands out and the moon stands out. Now also too, if you look at the stars, they stand out more with the white of the paper than they would if I were to color them white. And then another experiment was to take, this is a water-based, okay, so I only bought 3 because I wanted to test them out. So these are, wait, where did they go? Where did they go? Well, I bought 3 water-based watercolor markers from Caran d'Ache, and these are the Pro Color? I'm trying to think. Anyhow, I tried them on here and activated them with this pen. So I activated them rather than using like just a brush pen or a zero marker. I actually used this little pen. And it worked pretty well. It's just the only thing is this little felt end here is really tough. So I think that's why I was having trouble. If I got my paper too wet, it was actually like tearing a little bit, getting little pills on the paper. But it worked as an activator. So then when you look at it under the black light, it looks all swirly and blended with the purple tint. So let me turn off the light and see if I can show you that. Well, it's interesting to see if this video works afterwards. So there we go. So look at my little fluffy trees where I blended the colored pencil, activated it instead of with water or a blender pen. I activated it with the spy pen, which is the invisible ink. So looks really cute. I like that. I like that technique. So let me turn the light back on. And you can see here what it looks like when I didn't blend it. That's just not activated right there. So you can see that I did versus didn't. So I think it would also, once I activate the, with water, the dark part of the sky, these part of the stars will actually really stand out with this, even if I don't color with it, just using the black light. Okay, so I don't like this one, but I tried using the neon pencils some more to see what would happen, and using them and with the neon markers and just combining them. So I colored some of the Spy pen on the moon and the crystals. And then I did some of the lines around the stars with the neon pencil because that did work so well. So the moon is Spy pen. The crystals have Spy pen with a little bit of purple. And then the rest of the background is just regular Ohuhu marker. And then I use the neon pencil on these crystals and around all these stars and filled in some stars. So let's see what we get when we turn off the light here. All right. Wow, that looks, it reminds me of a Van Gogh. Big inspiration for me. Now I will say I could have left the white of the paper for some of that, but I still like it. I still like, and I'm thinking the outlining on these lines helps too. So like if I were to do more of that, so let me get another pen here and I can show you coloring. I did this a little bit while I was coloring. So it's not showing up great where there's dark pencil, but it is showing up and I kind of like, so you can see how this works. It's kind of fun. It's giving it more contrast. It's brightening those light areas. And then you've got the neon Prismacolor as highlights on the leaves. So here you can see the white of the paper. It just looks like the lavender of the UV light. But I did color this with like 3 coats on the moon. Anyhow, it's subtle. I think the neon Prismacolor is definitely a winner here. Okay. I hope all this works. I really hope all that works. I hope you can see it in the video. Okay, so number 5. Now I want you to stay because I'm going to show you an example of like my, it's like the 8th or 9th material here, but I want to show you my last favorite thing to do in a work in progress in here. So we'll get to that in a second and I can do a little bit of coloring to show you what I mean. So this one, now I've seen tutorials on Instagram reels and stuff where someone colors in, oops, I grabbed the wrong thing, where someone colors in white. And I do like the look, like when you take and shade white with pencil or with a watered down Chinese white, which is a gouache. People put Chinese white with watercolors, but traditional watercolors, white is the white of the paper. You know, I have the worst luck with paint pens. This is a fairly new paint pen. So I like to go over the white for things that are glass. Go over the lines. I like to go over the lines for things that are glass and for ghost. So I did this in another book. Let's see here. Where you shade in the white. So what I did here too is I drew with my marker and colored in the table in a lighter shade so that it looks like it's transparent. And I also colored in a wall color so that it looks like it's transparent. So there was no, the line stopped here and continued here. So I shaded it in as if you could see through all of this. And then I shaded some white Prismacolor around it to give it a little bit of a haze or glow effect. And I like how that looks. I do think it would be better with the white, if it'll work. I think it is better with the white outline. There it goes. I always get a little too robust and I need to use just a very light touch and it works so much better. So with a nice strong white line, that's better. Should probably do it before I do the pencil. Might work better. Anyhow, I will finish up this page with all of my outlines for my finished pages. But the biggest thing is you're doing the illusion of something being semi-transparent by coloring it lighter. So leaving the white of the paper and then coloring it lighter has an effect. So now the last thing that I would do, which is my favorite thing, is in addition to leaving the white of the paper and coloring it lighter or pastel in that area, is to like make it dramatic. So sure, it looks like it's glowing, but it's gonna look like it's really glowing if you had the higher contrast of it being dark around it. So if I were to come in, do I want purple? If I were to come in and start shading it much darker, like over here and on the side of that pot, and then taper off, it's gonna become much more dramatic. By having a higher contrast and bringing in that drama, I think is what makes pictures really, really dynamic. And that's the ones that I am gravitated towards when I'm looking at other artists' work. I see a lot of them on Pinterest that are amazing. So if I get this nice and dark, the tag is gonna pop. And then the little ghost here is gonna look like he's really, really, really glowing nicely. So see if I can do enough of that to show you what I mean. So you kind of have to plan ahead. Like I would not want to have to shade white over all of that. In order to get it darker, you have to leave it lighter to start with. So it does take a little bit of planning. I'm gonna leave my little highlight right there on the little foot of the cauldron. This is super fast. I'm gonna go in and make this neater, that's for sure. Because this can get pretty dark too right here. You could do this with other materials. I enjoy coloring. I'm not very good with the alcohol markers yet. Haven't had them very long, haven't used them very long, and I've used Prismacolors for years. So I'm just happy. That's my happy place. So once I start to get this darker around it, that contrast is really what's going to make it look like it glows. So my favorite method doesn't even include any of these glowing little gadgets and supplies, but it is fun for a coloring book. If I were coloring something like Alien Worlds or Tales from the City Among the Stars, or some of these other fun books that have more of that theme, I probably would use some of the neon or glow-in-the-dark stuff. It is fun. And it would be a fun thing to do with kids too. You know, do your entire coloring page and then at the end put on, you know, some of these type things over your little ghost or as highlights on things. All right, so I don't want the cork stopper to glow. I just want this to glow. So I'm not gonna keep it light up there. And then I just taper off. So now my little ghost is starting to really stand out. And then I want a dark shadow under here. Dark shadows. Light reflecting off the side of the cauldron. Right here. So you can see that's starting to really stand out better. Now this book has so many of these stars, I actually started to ignore them after a while. But you can see just in that little part that he's starting to really glow, and it's with none of that. So that's my favorite method, even though these other things were fun. So this is my little apartment set up testing them all, but I want to show you my favorite in a different book. Let's see, I'll put this right here. We'll switch places. So, Fairy Tales and Folklore by Emily Leadhall Oberg. One of my favorite books at the moment. Beautiful book. This is a work in progress with Shelley, and it's gonna look different when it's done, but I just wanted to show you how I'm leaving a light area around things. Now this looks darker than here because the table is not colored in yet. The table's gonna be a dark wood. So I have a light area here and in the crystal and this bottle, which I actually, when I explained about the cork, I need to darken up here because I don't want the cork to glow. I just want the bottle with the jellyfish solution to glow. And I want this to glow. I want the candles to glow. So one thing that can help is actually using an eraser. So, so many materials here. Where did my, here's my eraser. Now I like to use a white eraser. You can use a kneaded eraser. You do have to kind of like knead it often because it picks up color and you don't want to deposit that color back down. Same thing about this. It can pick up the color because when you first start erasing Prismacolor with a white eraser, it kind of picks up the color. And if you move to a lighter area, you don't want to transfer it there. Like I don't want to bring the purple into where I have this pale yellow. But I realized that I wanted more of a glow rather than so close. I wanted it to kind of spread out a little bit. Like I like this. I've erased right here and right here and right here and right here, but I think it's too close right here. So I would go back starting in a light area moving slowly into a darker area. Now you can see it does pick up the color, so you got to be wary of that. Just rub it off onto a piece of paper in another, you know, if you need to go back into a lighter area. Yeah. So I'm going to erase it. So that blends it and gives it a new texture. I feel like if you did this with like a blending tool, like a Tortillion stump, that it probably would take a lot more work. And if I erase too much or it's uneven, I can just come back in with my pencils. All right. Handy dandy brush. So I like that and how that's looking. I want it to be rounded. And then to add to the drama, I want it to be darker at the other end of this. Like my, like the disparity between the darkest dark and the lightest light, I want to be absolutely the full value range. Like not a page full of midtones. It looks very flat and it looks kind of undramatic when you do that, but I want drama for this. So I'm actually going to take my darkest colors, and I probably have a black here too. Oh, this is indigo blue, black grape and black cherry. I love. And I also used Tuscan red in here. I was wanting a reddish, purplish, brownish, black. It was blending in with the black on my table. So I could continue this darker with my pencils on the outside because I did keep that light. I don't layer every color all the way up on something this big because I'm gonna run out of room for layers before this gets burnished. Like you can see it's pretty light over here and over here because I don't color everything all the way to the edge, and I know I want to get really dark, and if I run out of layers I can't get as dark as I want. Now I could, if I run out of layers and I can't get any color down and it won't lay down because it's the wax bloom, then I can go ahead and use Neocolor 2s or acrylic marker on top, but then that makes some interesting blending issues. So I'm going to keep going with this, and you'll see it starts to get really, really, really dramatic the darker I get in the dark areas. You just think about where the light is not going to reach. It's not going to reach like behind this cloche stand. And having like 3 or 4 different light sources does complicate that, but from all of those things, it's going to get really dark over here. So I can get pretty dark with this. It's black grape. So I'll be able to get pretty dark, but that's almost going to be as dark as that paper will let it get because of the tooth of the paper is disappearing. So if I need to, I'll do a little bit of black and then blend it into the edge of this purple rather than over it. I just want to show you enough that you can see how the drama is going to like really improve. And it's that contrast. You improve that contrast, you're going to improve the drama. And things will look like they're glowing. And for me, I just color overlapping different directions, or I color in tiny circles when I'm trying to be really neat. But if I color a bunch of different directions, overlapping, eventually my background will look like the texture of fabric, which I kind of like. Okay, so that's getting darker, and I'll keep going that way. Now to get it really dark, I can either use the indigo or the black. Use the indigo here. I don't quite want it black yet right here. All right, getting there. And mixing in with this indigo blue and black grape and mahogany red, it just makes it richer than if I were to go dark to light with one single color. It's almost like when you look at, let's see, what's it called? Impressionist painting. When you look up close and you see all those individual little dots of color, and then you back up and it all blends together. It just looks richer. Gives it more depth. Okay, I don't want to get too close. All right, so now you're starting to see how that can be more dramatic. And I can even make this darker. I can make the side of this skull a little darker too, because it's not going to see the light of day over here on this side. So that's looking a little too turquoise for me by itself, so I'm going to bring in some of the other 2 colors. But we're just increasing the contrast. So now I don't want to go any further here because I want this to look like I want it to look like the crystal is emitting or its own like reflections in light. You could get so dark here that you almost even blend right into, like from the skull into the background, and can't tell where one starts and one stops. That would look really cool. And then one thing I've noticed, a couple things I've noticed about candles is that they often have the darker burnt end in the middle of the flame. If it's a really bright candle, you don't, but if you can see the wick, it's often either a glowing orange or black, and then it turns white where it hasn't burned down yet. And then the top of the candle is still slightly translucent, so you can still see some glow through the top edges of the candle, and then it's going to get darker lower. So I'll keep this light up here, and then as it gets lower, I'm going to start darkening. And I've used cream and Violet. Oh, yeah, Parma Violet. I was reading the French and it didn't. Okay. Parma Violet. The lighter is Orchid. See, the Orchid or Lavender. I've been using Orchid and Lavender, and I think the Lavender is a little too blue for this. But the Parma Violet is a nice transition from that lighter value. And I'll even lighten the cream a little bit because it's a lavender colored candle. Or I should say Parma Violet. And why do I keep forgetting that? Orchid. It's a Orchid and Parma Violet candle. But I want it to get darker, particularly on that left side. And all we're doing here is just increasing the contrast and the drama. I do like how this is working with the shadows. I put a tiny shadow above each indent here where the wax would go up between drips. And then I put a little dark shadow on the skull where that would block light. And that seems to be going nicely. I also added a tiny bit of shadow under the edges of things where they would curve in particular, like under that chin, under where the curve of the crystal is. And I'll do more of that as we finish this up. So I'm not going to stay and finish this all with you, but I will put it in my finished pages. This is a buddy color that I'm working on with Shelly, and she is at Weaver Shelly. We did an owl together last month. It turned out great. All right, so see if you can up the drama to make things glow. That's my favorite, and that is like the 8th material here. But if you count the experiments, I don't even know where to count where I've layered things. So it's probably about 10 different ways to get things to glow. And then I'll get my darkest dark. Get in there with my darker dark. Yeah, coming along. So I'm enjoying this, and I can't wait to finish this. I'm going to erase a little bit more to make that even. And I'm going to fill in a little more above this. That's the wrong color. There's the other color. Black cherry. That must be the magenta right there too. That looks really purple. Yeah, that's the magenta. All right, so don't be afraid to get really dark. And if you're doing pencil, you can erase. If you can't erase what you're doing, you can do an additive method where you add light, add lighter colors, add white. So don't be afraid to try it. I think my first pages I've ever colored were not nearly as dramatic. And I think that's something that really makes them very interesting to look at when you start doing that. So I hope you're having a fun Halloween month, and I hope you've got lots of fun stuff planned. I still have plans for coloring, so probably not this book beyond those pictures, but I wanted to say I have a new book from Melanie Bess at the Swimming Owl, and I'm not going to do a flip through, but look how cute. So cute. She has these for sale on her website. If you order it directly from her instead of on Amazon, she'll include a couple little, like a sticker and a postcard. And I ordered this from her too. I think it's beautiful. Those are my favorite colors. Love that so much. And she even signed it. So I do want to color in this. In fact, there's lots of opportunities to make things glowing in here as well. A cute little bookshop. I think that might be one of my first. I love this. She did an amazing job drawing that. A lot of people can't draw that, and she did a great job drawing that. And I love this. Lots of beautiful fall and witchy themed So cute. And she has a tutorial on this one, or she colors this one. I might do these guys first. Anyhow, beautiful book. If someone wants me to flip through page by page, I can. I have a buddy color in this. I want to color one in this. I want to color one in this. Yeah, I like mice. And I also have Walk in the Woods and R.J. Hampson. I'm going to do the dragon stealing a pumpkin. So, hope you're having a fun Halloween week and month. And I will see you later with finished pages. Bye, guys.